Superman's first appearance in Action Comics #1.
It's Superman!
Hi, welcome to Garage Geek. So today I am going to talk about Superman's first appearance in Action Comics because DC Finest is a new line of graphic novels from DC. I have 4 that just arrived, and I'm so excited. So the DC Finest is going to collect Superman's earliest appearances in order. The way that these DC Finests work is they show the years. So this is everything from Superman from the years of 1938 to sometime in the 1940s. So you could see that on this year bar that they have. So this is an iconic issue of Superman because it's his first appearance. So I got such a kick out of reading this issue. I am going to make one quibble about this, is that this is Superman's appearances. They're not Action Comics full appearances. So what that means is you're not going to get the full issue of Action Comics #1. You will only get Superman's appearances in these comics. And I think that's a missed opportunity. I would have much preferred that they actually reprinted the entirety of Action Comics, and I would have bought that. So there's going to be a lot in this issue that you don't get. However, what they did do, and I'm so thankful for, is they did reprint all the covers, even when Superman is not on the cover. For example, like this. And the cover artist on these is pretty nice. His name is... So that's Action Comics #2. And the artist is Leo E. O'Malley. I would like to show more as I read through this, but it was such a fun read that I wanted to share this with you. So, of course, you have the iconic first issue with Superman throwing a car and people running. The first page of Superman, of Action Comics #1 is his origin. And what's really interesting is the second panel, which is long and thin, says, when the vehicle landed on Earth, a passing motorist, discovering the sleeping babe within, turned the child over to an orphanage. It doesn't mention anything about Ma and Pa Kent or that history. And then he's in the orphanage, and it seems like he stayed there until he was an adult, but the doctors all marveled at his strength. And the next couple panels talk about his powers. We get the first actual panel of Superman posing in his costume, and he seems to loom large over the city. Superman, champion of the oppressed, the physical marvel who had sworn to devote his existence to helping those in need. And then we get 2 panels trying to explain why Superman's powers are scientifically sound, which is a lot of fun. On the next page, we have the first ever appearance of Superman in action, and he's carrying a bound-up woman. Pretty hilarious. What seems to happen in this comic is there are a bunch of vignettes of Superman doing different things, and they're not really tied together, but they make sense, and they're just a lot of fun. The first vignette, Superman, who has a really abrasive personality. He shows up at the governor's house. The governor's asleep behind a steel door. Like, who sleeps behind a steel door? It's hilarious. He shows up, and he starts manhandling and just verbally abusing the butler, supposedly the butler, who's there. The butler's mad. I mean, this just weirdo shows up in the middle of the night demanding to see the governor and starts breaking down doors. I mean, of course he's going to be enraged. He even pulls out a gun and tries to shoot him. Hilarious. Superman picks up the guy and holds him over his head as he's climbing up the stairs. Then he gets to the steel door. He smashes it in. And finally, we meet the governor. What's really beautiful, there's a series of a couple of panels, at least 3, where there's a lot of line work and shading going on in the background of the scene. And I just thought that the art on this was really, really, really nice. Now, the next day, Superman goes to his job as a reporter, and he gets a report that there's a phoned-in tip of a wife beating occurring at 211 Court Avenue. I don't know, did reporters normally go to wife beating scenes? I don't know, that was just weird. So when he gets there, we see Superman bursts in of a man like beating his wife with what seems like a belt, and she's cowering on the ground like, this is horrible. And then Superman punches him around, and he says, which is hilarious. He says, "You're not fighting a woman now." And then the guy faints. Now, what's interesting about this is on that same page, we get the introduction of Lois Lane, but all we're given is her name, Lois. And the panel is off to the side, so it's hard to get a picture of it. Clark asks her for a date yet again, and she says, "Well, I suppose I'll give in for a change." They go out dancing, and there are these like mobster types, and one of the big goons, he wants to dance with Lois, so he goes over and picks a fight with Clark. Clark has to pretend like he's a coward, and Lois gets all bent out of shape. She slaps the goon, but inwardly Clark is happy about it. And instead of doing anything or retaliating to Lois, the goon turns around and pushes Clark in the face and tells him, "Fight, you weak-livered polecat." Now later, this guy is going to get his comeuppance because he's going to be left on a pole, which I thought was pretty funny. So Lois storms out, and the art in this is beautiful. And Lois says, "You asked me earlier in the evening why I avoid you. I'll tell you why now. Because you're a spineless, unbearable coward," underlined. His name is Butch. He storms out because he's mad that I'll show that skirt. She can't make a fool out of Butch Matson, that skirt. So he follows, Superman follows Butch and his hoodlums. The language in this issue is hilarious. So Butch says to Lois, as another guy has her, he says, "Get in that car and shut up." Superman follows along in the car, and that's where we get the iconic scene of Superman lifting the car and smashing it, which is what gives us the cover scene. Next, we have Superman going to Washington, D.C. It just happens. He's sent overseas for some weird reason, and then he doesn't go there, but he decides to go to Washington, D.C. Superman hanging on the side of a building being an eavesdropper. He hears this conversation and he starts following the gangster. He takes the gangster and he wants information from him. So he does what Batman would do. He takes the gangster and jumps up on top of a building, starts running along electric wires. The guy is scared that they're going to be electrocuted. Superman is playing with him like a cat with his mouse. It just sort of ends. Like, he's scaring this guy, and that's supposed to be the cliffhanger for the next issue. And the next issue does pick up with him terrorizing this guy. So normally I don't like to go ahead and give away the plot, but this is just a silly old comic, and I think if you enjoyed what I said, you'd still want to read it yourself because the language in it is hilarious. So I hope you enjoyed that little romp through Action Comics #1, Superman's first appearance. Now, of course, I didn't go through every aspect of this comic, only Superman's first appearance. If you enjoy this and would like to see more of the DC Finest, please let me know that in the comments. As always, I'd like to thank you all for your support.
Than a bullet, stronger than a diesel.